Hello and welcome to Global Eye from the BBC World Service. In the next half hour, we'll bring you some of the best journalism from our teams across the world. I am Kalkidani Beltal, a journalist based in Nairobi, and for the past week I've been here in the world's youngest nation, South Sudan, where renewed conflict between the army and rebels aligned with a jailed opposition leader is threatening a fragile peace agreement. The UN has warned that this country, which is not 15 years old yet, could be on the road to a full-blown civil war. I'll be guiding you through as to what's happening here and why the world needs to pay attention. Coming up on the program, with rare and exclusive access to Puntland, the hard-to-reach semi-autonomous region of Somalia, we are on the ground with the region's defense force as it battles fighters from the Islamic State group. The Horn of Africa has become a crucial nexus for IS since it was largely driven out of the Middle East.
meesha waa la siman yahay waayo dagaal baa lagu jiraa waa la wada shaqaysanaya kii jananka u sareeyay kii hooseeyay inta waa siman tahay san baa la wada shaqaysanaya de hawlgal baa lagu jiraa.
And as the US-Israeli war on Iran continues, we will reveal how Iranian state media uses propaganda and AI to push their government's preferred narrative about the course of the war. This is South Sudan's largest state, Jonglei, some 250 kilometers north of the country's capital, Juba. It's not an easy place to reach. Conditions are dangerous and the roads are among the least developed in the globe. According to the UN, the entire country had just around 400 kilometers of paved road by 2022. Additionally, insecurity makes road travel risky. So to get here, we had to join aid workers in one of their humanitarian flights. The ongoing armed clashes in Jonglei began with a sudden upsurge in late December. Rebel forces known as the Sudan People's Liberation Army in Opposition, or SPLA-IO, announced they would be marching to the country's capital to overthrow the government. They had overpowered the army in several positions and took control of local administrations. The military responded with airstrikes, and civilians paid the heaviest prices. An unknown number of them were killed. Villages were burned down and masses fled. I spoke to some Jonglei residents who had been forced to flee for their lives.
ngan mi ango ku kwanyara mi chiete mo moyo mu basham anana chapona kunen ngan tu te ko ne chi wan kel ga te ko gora to mi ka yen ben de yen je chi ne lu wora da na be ga ne song mi chiane ba kap sho ano te mo kon do me cho ko go ko mi nan ngut ko mi re ku ben.
Alarms were sounded by the UN, by the African Union and others that South Sudan could be facing a return to civil war. So how did this young country, once so full of hope, come to this? To understand, you need to know these two men. Salva Kiir, who's been the president of the country since independence, and Riek Machar, his main opponent, who, until last year, was first vice president following a power-sharing agreement signed in 2018. But about a year ago, Machar was put under house arrest and was later charged with several offenses, including treason. His supporters, including those in the SPLA-IO, saw the move as politically motivated and vowed to fight the authorities. During the recent clashes, rebel leaders called for Machar's release. As well as being the youngest, South Sudan is one of the most impoverished countries in the world. Since independence, it's been blighted by a deadly cycle of violence. And it's been heavily impacted by the effects of climate change. According to the World Food Programme, 10 million of its 14 million people are now dependent on humanitarian assistance. Besides security, logistics is a key challenge that humanitarians face here in South Sudan as they seek to reach to millions of people in scattered and remote villages. To get to many people living in those areas that are not accessible by road, aid agencies often use boats like this that are currently being loaded with all these essential supplies, and they are going to be dispatched on the River Nile. When South Sudan broke away from Sudan and declared independence, there was much euphoria and optimism. But the years that followed were marked by recurrent violence and administrative impotence that continued to keep a nation endowed with rich natural resources in the shackles of poverty. Several countries in this region are grappling with chronic security problems. Sudan is in the middle of a 3-year civil war, and Somalia is struggling to contain Islamist insurgency. The UN's Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan has expressed grave concern over the situation here, and aid agencies warn the world shouldn't look away as another country slides deeper into disorder. Nearly a decade after its defeat in the Middle East, the Islamic State group has shifted its focus to Africa, with IS branches emerging across the continent. In the Horn of Africa, Somalia's semi-autonomous state of Puntland has become one of the group's main strategic hubs. Last year, the UN estimated there were about 800 IS fighters in Somalia, more than half of them foreign fighters. BBC reporter Sahanun Ahmed traveled to Al-Miskad Mountains to embed with Puntland Defense Forces, who are leading the fight against IS.
misna shaqadii dalkana haysa shaqadii gurigana haysa baa subax walba markii aan soo kacno waxaan daaranaa khadka marka in caruurta iyo xaafadda laga wada doono muhiim iyaguna waa walwalayaan anana waa walwalaynaa de wax kala dheernaysan tanaan hadda ku joogaa de waa shaqadii qaranka dalka loo hayay waa muqadas tooduna waa muqadas hooyo muhiim igu dhiib see tahay noloshaydii
Muna is an officer in the Puntland Defense Forces. For the last 12 months, she has been fighting the Islamic State group.
مرقة أكرسين هي معانا عرفت كتحدث
Her job has kept her apart from her 8 children. In the last year, she has only seen them twice.
سوماها خير بكور جن هوي سؤال هدان محمد ديق لا هلين هورت قفك اي ku curato hadayna la hadlin xaaladiis waa ma fiicna
I was born and grew up in Somalia. For years, I've watched militant groups take root here. Since the state collapsed in 1991, Somalia has been scarred by civil war. By 2006, groups like Al-Shabaab filled the vacuum, smothering Somalia's chance at development. The instability they have caused has allowed another dangerous player to take hold, the so-called Islamic State group. The group had territorial strongholds in countries like Syria and Iraq, until US-backed forces and the Syrian army began to drive them out. By 2019, the group was thought to have been largely defeated. After losing ground in the Middle East, IS shifted its focus to Africa, branches starting to operate across the continent, with Somalia's semi-autonomous region of Puntland functioning as a strategic hub.
It is home to terrorists who take advantage of conditions in Africa to grow and export their ideology. ISIS controls their global network from Somalia.
Known as IS Somalia, this branch is now one of the most influential hubs globally, bringing in foreign fighters, training them, embedding them.
Prophethood is now established and it's spreading everywhere. Now it's right here in Somalia.
Puntland is leading the fight back. Its security force has managed to push IS Somalia out of the key port city of Bosaso. The Puntland Defense Force has only held this area for a few months. About 500 soldiers are based here, including Muna.
halkaan oo kale markaad joogto waxay ogaanaysaa gabdhuhu inay yihiin dhowrka ciidanka
dumar ahaan miyay shaqadan lagu xijinaa isleeda mise adaa
ma oo lafta rag iyo dumar waa la wada qabsadaa sarkaalada kamid ciidanka ku jira baana meesha waa la siman yahay waayo dagaal baa lagu jiraa waa la wada shaqaysanayaa kii jananka u sareeyay kii hooseeyay inta waa siman tahay san ma wada shaqaysanaya de hawlgal baa lagu jiraa.
Muna is one of the few women in the Puntland army, currently in a support role, but she has fought in battles against the IS. The army has managed to regain territory from the IS, but at a great cost for the soldiers. The rule of IS in these mountains has also taken a heavy toll on the local community. Nestled in the mountains lies Dadaab, home to 600 people. Once under the rule of IS, the army retook control in March 2025 with the help of US air support, but the scars remain. Saeed Mohammed has been the imam in Dadaab for 7 years. When IS came to the village, they removed him from the mosque.
masaajidka iman baan ka abaliyey annaga iman ka abaliyey masaajidka annaga joognay baan ka haddii aan la tukan karno la tuko digana wadada ka bax dii kale tan dii wixii aad waajib leedahay lagu marinaa waa ku gowracaynaa ama waa ku qafaalanaynaa labada un weeye marka sidaas daraadeed masaajidka maalintii baan ka tegey.
IS has been active here since late 2015. For years, they were largely overlooked, allowing the group to grow more entrenched in these mountains. Local residents say the arrival of foreign fighters brought a new battle of ideology.
ma isku dayi jireen inay dadka wacdiyaan oo ka dhaadhiciyaan fikirkooda oo ay masaajidka ka khudbeeyaan oo ama magaalada dhex istaagaan.
waa isku dayi jireen yani markii waxyaabo khaldan lagu arkana waa waxa ay dilka balaabeen cidii qaadeen weydana ay dagaal iyo dilku balaabaan.
waxaad iga warantaa caqiidadooda marka ma caqiidada islaamka turjumaysa kula ahayd mise bal iga waran sida aragtay.
kama turjumay islaamka niman yani xukun doona bay ahaay وين أود يعني حكم وحي حكومان قرق حكومان بيوصلين علم كسلية دين علميا عقيدة اجتماعية.
The most shocking, the murder of a pregnant mother. Shukri Musa was killed along with her 7-year-old son, Saeed, who was deaf.
The militants may have left, but fear remains. Fear that they could come back. The group are still present in this region, and sleeper cells are launching attacks. One not far from here is a reminder of the threat and the danger they still pose.
Defeating IS requires international support. A US strike here in May 2024 killed 3 IS fighters, a crucial part of driving the group out of Dadaab. Cooperation between the Puntland Defense Forces and the US is ongoing. For the Puntland Defense Force, the push to the front is only days away. I met 24-year-old Abdikhair, a young soldier who captured an IS foreign fighter alive. Abdikhair had only been on the front line for 3 months when he helped detain this IS militant.
Hassan wey iga Turkiga wey waan gacanteeda ku soo qabtay marka anigana way ka asagana waa ku intu dirir kale waa dirir intu macnaha rasaas macnaha kiishka dhabarka u saar ugu jidhame intu khasnad haystay macnaha waa riday
isaga idinku soo riday
marka inna waxa ka yeelimayso waxa indhaha ku aragnaa noo macallin.
In June 2025, the UN estimated that the Islamic State group had up to 800 fighters in Somalia, over half of them foreign. Since then, local reports suggest hundreds have been killed or captured in a government counteroffensive. A little outside the camp, a drone scouts ahead.
That's ISIS? Wow. How far are they?
2.5 kilometers.
How do you know they are ISIS?
meeshay ku jiraan baa wax ka ognahay cadow.
We are with the army now. They are moving in small groups to a new staging area. They have found a cave with 50 to 60 IS militants. And from this new position, they are planning to launch an attack on this IS hideout.
Despite the support of an American surveillance drone out of sight overhead, the closer the soldiers got to the enemy, the more I felt their mood darken. Phase 1, a surprise mortar attack on the caves from a distance. They waited for the all clear. Then they moved.
We are just approaching where they set up their position to launch mortar attacks on ISIS hideouts.
The army's vantage point offers a bird's eye view of IS positions in the valley below. Mortars, $200 a shot. Islam across the mountain.
IS are less than 1 kilometer away, just opposite where we are now.
The militants didn't fight back. With no return fire, the enemy could be unharmed, lying in wait. The drone went up to see if the target had been hit. The entrance appeared damaged.
That's the cave.
That's the cave?
Yes.
For the Puntland forces, it was a strange kind of victory. After months in the mountains, the decisive blow had come from elsewhere. We were later told American drones struck the fighters in the caves.
wax kastoo saaxay macaan ay nagu qaadato ay macnaha dhulkan nagula meeraysteen hadba god hanala galeen wax kasto 10 sano ay nagu qaadato ka harimaynaano kan ugu dambeeyay inaan gacantayda ku soo dhigno waa muhiimiyad u tahay oo ciidan ay ka sifoobaan
hortani hooyaan ahay waa sax carruur yar baan ka imi goobtana waxaan u joogaa shaqadayda ay dhahaan insha Allah waa guuleysanaynaa hooyo waan soo noqonaysaa anagoo guuleysanay
dareenkaaga maxay ka bedeshaa markaas
waxay iga bedeshaa waxa aan aaminsanahay walaahi waxa i dhiirigeliyaa lahaansho dalkan anigu inaan leeyahay baa isii dhiirigelisaa hal taako oo ka midana cidna uma ogoli intaasaa marka igu dhiirigelisaa xaaladaha qaarkood mararka qaarkood aan isu sheego xataa caqabad kasta oo ay qabsataa waxaan nafteeda u sheegaa dalkan anigu inaan leeyahay cidda tibinaya khalad ku tahay hoobey.
Here is some more thought-provoking content that the World Service has produced this week. The Lives Less Ordinary podcast sat down with Ramla Ali, a British Somali boxer and UNICEF ambassador, to hear her inspiring story about how, against the odds, she became the first Somali boxer to compete at the Olympic Games after hiding her career from her family for many years. She recently returned to Somalia for the first time since coming to the UK in the 1990s. Lives Less Ordinary episodes are now posted in Vision on the BBC World Service YouTube channel, or you can catch the podcast on BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts. Since the beginning of the US-Israeli war on Iran, journalists have been finding ways to report on what's happening, often in the face of incredible logistical and legal challenges. But for those working for Iran's state-run media, their assignment is a different one. Their job has been to broadcast the message that the Iranian government wants people to hear. Reha Kansara from the BBC's Global Disinformation Unit has been looking into how Iran's state media has been flooding its services with propaganda to distort the reality of what's happening on the ground.
State media in Iran, announcing the beginning of the war when US and Israeli airstrikes hit Tehran.
شاهد برخاستن ستون‌هایی از دود در نقاطی از شهر تهران هستیم.
It was quick and decisive, typical of news outlets, but it wasn't long before facts were muddled with falsehoods and half-truths. Later that day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu suggested their joint forces had killed Iran's leader Ayatollah Khamenei at his home.
ורבים הסימנים שגם הרודן הזה איננו.
Iran's silence was loud, until a regime spokesperson called the reports of Khamenei's death enemy psychological warfare, and state media dismissed them as rumors.
به آخرین اطلاعاتی که ما در اختیار داریم که این شایعات بیهوده است.
Then, the following morning, hours after US President Trump publicly confirmed the Supreme Leader's death, state media ran the news that Khamenei had been killed by Israel and the US. Reporters Without Borders say Iran is one of the most repressive countries when it comes to press freedom. Now, in its attempt to control what people hear, see, and watch, all broadcasting on TV, radio, social media, and news websites is controlled by the state. And Western media outlets, including BBC Persian, are banned from reporting in the country.
The internet has been cut off, and people can't have access to the internet to get the news from there. It has been like this for decades, since the birth of the Islamic Republic in 1979. And I think in Iran, censorship is the lock and disinformation is the key. And it doesn't let the people see exactly what's going on inside the country.
Iranian media has also routinely published bogus claims, inflating the number of casualties behind enemy lines. One such report claimed that Iranian forces had killed or injured 650 American personnel in the first 2 days of the war. At the time, the Pentagon had confirmed only 6 soldiers had died. New technology is also helping state media. This video, showing the aftermath of a strike in Bahrain, was posted online by the Iranian state-owned English-language news outlet, Press TV. But it's not real. It was made using AI. A closer look, and these 2 cars are dissolving into one another. A reverse image search brings no credible reports of the hit. Instead, it brought up another version of the AI video. Like much of the AI-generated content about the war that's flooded social media, it's unclear who made it and where it came from.
They have a narrative they're pushing, which is that they are quite victorious, their military is very strong, and so we've been seeing various different examples of AI-generated content coming out of state media, X accounts, Telegram channels that kind of show either fake or exaggerated examples of their attacks against, U.S. air bases or Israeli targets.
But the information space is distorted even by the regime's critics. When Iranian state media reported the funerals of 160 children and staff, killed in what experts say was likely a US operation targeting a military base close to a school in southern Iran, opposers of the government claimed that this view from the mass funeral was AI manipulated. The government's track record of feeding kernels of truth alongside lies has sown doubt amongst many. Except this time, their reporting was factually correct. This wider shot shows the area surrounding the graves. Within the image's metadata are the coordinates for where it was captured. We geolocated it to a cemetery roughly 3.7 kilometers away from the school. Satellite imagery shows that these trees, the road layout, and this nearby building match those visible in the footage. Other satellite imagery from the day after the funeral provides a clear image of the graves. AI manipulation. The denial and inflation of deaths. These tactics aren't new. But in the state's attempt to display its might internationally, half-truths and lies have spilt over. Iran may see this as a battle it can win.
Thank you for joining me in South Sudan. We want your feedback, so please let us know what you think on social media using the hashtag BBC Global Eye. We will be back next week. Goodbye.